Greetings from Tirana to all the friends gathered this week in the Netherlands with Urban95 Foundation and Apolitical to discuss about how we advance the agenda for children even further. I'm sorry I could not attend this time. I was really looking forward to, but we were hit by an apocalyptic earthquake about a week ago on the 26th of November. It turned our world upside down. We lost over 50 people. Much of the country is in ruins, particularly in central Albania, in Durrës, and in our city of Tirana. We are devastated, we are blown away, but we haven't given up and we're committed to rise again. We are now in the process of reconstruction after taking stock of all the damages, after burying our loved ones, and now ready to move on and pick up where this earthquake left us. We are focusing our attention mostly on public institutions, those that are affecting our kids, the kindergartens and the nurseries and the schools. And while we're taking stock of what damage has been done, we're also looking forward on how to renew, rebuild, and become even more creative with public spaces involving kids. Therefore, we'll be looking at your help in how we can design better schools, not only earthquake-proof, but also design them in a way that are more inclusive, more accessible, and fun places for our kids and for the future of this country to take part. But even before the earthquake, we had some major challenges to deal with. I became mayor in 2015, so 4.5 years ago, and we found out there was hardly any space for kids. Most of public space was occupied with this zeal and trophies called automobiles and cars, and taking most of the public space otherwise designated for kids. I was walking around and people were saying, "Mr. Mayor, we have no kids." I said, this cannot be possible. In a city of 1 million people, where the average age is 30, at least a third of the city should qualify as children or young adults. But what we found out that kids existed, but they were out of the public realm. So our first mandate was mostly about how to get space for kids and how to get playgrounds and how to get nurseries and kindergartens and how to think of the next generation. And then you get the usual skeptics who say, why are we worrying about the next generation? You know, you're a politician. Politicians should worry about the next election, and they should worry about voters and taxpayers. And children don't vote or pay taxes. We felt pretty lonely, although we were very committed to move on. But then things changed when we found out initiatives like Urban95. And apparently it doesn't matter whether you live in Tirana or Toronto or in Amsterdam and Rotterdam or in Kigali and Tokyo. This is a debate everywhere. Should we think about the next election or should we think about the next generation? And luckily with Urban95, we found our peers that are also thinking about the next generation the way we are impassioned to think. Therefore, we embarked on a series of changes, the way we design our city, we design our road, the way we access our buildings, the way we plant our trees, the way we involve kids in a lot of these initiatives, the way we organize car-free days, or in the way that we make decisions about which places we should make car-free, pedestrian-only, not only for parts of the year or certain weekends, but permanently throughout the year. This type of thinking brought some awesome results. We got kids involved in a lot of these bike courses. We got kids involved in a lot of these car-free days. And then we got kids involved in convincing their parents and trying to argue why these spaces and why these initiatives of the city are not something that comes top-down from progressive leaders, but it's something that really comes inherently from their heart, from them wanting to be kids, from them wanting to have physical activity, from them wanting to enjoy the act of play, for them wanting to be healthy and eat good food. And I think it started a process, one of the most radical processes of advocacy, where it's not the enlightened elites who are trying to convey these messages, but little kids going into every household, going to their dinner table, and having a chat, having a conversation with their parents about what is the right way to move forward. Thanks to this fantastic kids advocacy, we have over now 50 kilometers of protected bike lanes in a city where no one hardly biked 5 years ago. We have about 100 completely renovated nurseries and kindergartens that look much nicer than a lot of the public buildings do in this part of the world, simply because this is the place where we worship our kids and we worship our youth and the future of this country. We went on a spree to build one playground every month because we consider the act of play a very serious business. Then we started including kids in a lot more sophisticated urban operations, but yet maintaining a very simple attitude of people having roots in this city. And speaking of roots, one of the major urban transformations we organized was the planting of about 500,000 trees in the last 3 years. Each year, over 130, 140,000 trees, where each kid gets to plant a tree for their birthday. We call them birthday trees. And it's a way for a poor city like us to be able to afford this type of greenery, but it's also a fantastic way for these kids to not only metaphorically put roots in the city, but physically have a place that they can say, this is my contribution, this is my tree, it has this name, show it to their cousins, water it during the drought and the hot summer days, and be proud that they have contributed to something that will grow with them in the city they love. Then we started thinking about what else makes a good childhood and kids healthy. I remember when I was growing up and when I was a kid, we waited in the bread line because Albania was in the last days of communism and extremely poor. And then we found out that within my generation, we went from our number one problem being poverty and not having enough to eat, to now coming to a place where our number one problem in kids is obesity and having too much of the wrong stuff to eat within a generation. So then we started working with kids. And we said, no, maybe broccoli doesn't taste well and muesli in the first go, but it makes us healthy and it can be fun. And we invited master chefs to start thinking on how we can design with the same budget a diet that is much healthier for children. How can we get away with sugar drinks and French fries and all of the non-healthy stuff, and how we can get kids part of the slow food movement that is now making a lot of gain throughout Albania. But in the end, what has made work with Urban95 fantastic is that we moved now in the second mandate from sporadic success stories, from this acupuncture across the city, into a much more well-designed program in a place where data is used. We don't just plant trees in a scattered way, but we have been able to map the routes that kids take to school or take to the kindergarten or to the playground, and make sure that the first trees with the big crown go there. This is just one example of what we can do with data. And I thank Urban95 for including us in this network. I'm sorry this is not the best of our days, but the better days are ahead. And after we pick up from this earthquake, initially worrying about how to recuperate spaces we lost that were designated for children, I think we will be a success story once more time. Thank you.